Great Nobel Prize laureate Mother Teresa said, "At the moment of death, we will not be judged by the amount of work we have done but by the weight of love we have put into our work. This love should flow from self-sacrifice, and it must be felt to the point of hurting." Great Nobel Prize laureate Jimmy Carter said, "Despite theological differences, all great religions share common commitments that define our ideal secular relationships. I am convinced that Christians, Buddhists, Jews, and others can embrace each other in a common effort to alleviate human suffering and to espouse peace." Great Nobel Prize laureate Niels Henrik David Bohr said, "An expert is a person who has found out by his own painful experience all the mistakes that one can make in a very narrow field." Great Nobel Prize laureate Theodore Roosevelt said, "Our words must be judged by our deeds, and in striving for a lofty ideal we must use practical methods, and if we cannot attain all at one leap, we must advance towards it step by step, reasonably content so long as we do actually make some progress in the right direction." Great Nobel Prize laureate Barack Obama said, "Hope is the bedrock of this nation. The belief that our destiny will not be written for us, but by us, by all those men and women who are not content to settle for the world as it is, who have the courage to remake the world as it should be." The Great Nobel Prize laureate Thomas Stearns, D.S. Eliot, "To do the useful thing, to say the courageous thing, to contemplate the beautiful thing, that is enough for one man's life." The Great Nobel Prize laureate Svetlana Alexievich said, "Death is the fairest thing in the world. No one's ever gotten out of it. The earth takes everyone, the kind, the cruel, the sinners. Aside from that, there's no fairness on earth." The Great Nobel Prize laureate Alice Munro said, "There is a limit to the amount of misery and disarray you will put up with, for love, just as there is a limit to the amount of mess you can stand around a house. You can't know the limit beforehand, but you will know when you've reached it. I believe this." The Great Nobel Prize laureate Thomas Tranströmer said, "In the middle of life, death comes to take your measurements. The visit is forgotten and life goes on. But the suit is being sewn on the sly." The Great Nobel Prize laureate Orhan Pamuk said, "I read a book one day and my whole life was changed." The Great Nobel Prize laureate Elfriede Jelinek said, "Every day, a piece of music, a short story, or a poem dies because its existence is no longer justified in our time. And things that were once considered immortal have become mortal again. No one knows them anymore, even though they deserve to survive." The Great Nobel Prize laureate John M. Coetzee said, "Truth is not spoken in anger. Truth is spoken, if it ever comes to be spoken, in love. The gaze of love is not deluded. It sees what is best in the beloved even when what is best in the beloved finds it hard to emerge into the light." The Great Nobel Prize laureate Sir Vidyadhar Sarai Prasad Naipaul said, "Most people are not really free. They are confined by the niche in the world that they carve out for themselves. They limit themselves to fewer possibilities by the narrowness of their vision." The Great Nobel Prize laureate Günter Grass said, "Granted, I am an inmate of a mental hospital, my keeper is watching me, he never lets me out of his sight, there's a peephole in the door, and my keeper's eye is the shade of brown that can never see through a blue-eyed type like me." The Great Nobel Prize laureate Seamus Heaney said, "I can't think of a case where poems change the world, but what they do is they change people's understanding of what's going on in the world." The Great Nobel Prize laureate Derek Walcott said, "The future happens. No matter how much we scream." The Great Nobel Prize laureate Nadine Gordimer said, "The truth isn't always beauty, but the hunger for it is." The Great Nobel Prize laureate Camila José Cela said, "I'm not made to philosophize, I don't have the heart for it. My heart is more like a machine for making blood to be spilled in a knife fight,